Hello, my fellow warriors. Welcome to the Warrior Insights channel, where today's topic of discussion will be new ways the government is tracking you. Medical institutions are using codes to restrict your rights and freedoms now and in the future. Before I begin, I'd like to remind you that this video corresponds with my Substack article, which may be found at athenaangelique.substack.com. In addition, if you'd like to submit any news for me to review, please send any emails to warriorinsights1@gmail.com. Have you heard of ICD-10? ICD-10 is International Classification of Diseases 10th revision. And while it may just seem to be another set of letters and numbers, the selection of these codes by doctors and medical institutions may subsequently mean the restriction of your patient bill of rights and your freedoms. Once upon a time, I thought my medical information would be sacred, given the amount of paperwork that I receive when I attend a medical office for the first time. Whether it's a dentist or a physician, every time you attend a medical institution for the very first time, they give you a litany of documents that you have to fill out. And in those documents, it includes a privacy notice. And if you want to have your information shared with any outside institutions or people, you are to submit their name or address or contact information on that form. Well, let's just say that sometimes these patient bill of rights no longer exists and your privacy no longer exists. First, let's see what is included in your patient bill of rights so that you know when they're violated. The patient bill of rights from the National Institutes of Health are included here in this paragraph. I will go over the most important ones that I've included in bold. The first one, the right to safe, considerate, and respectful care provided in a manner consistent with your beliefs. Number two, to expect that all communications and records pertaining to your care will be treated as confidential to the extent permitted by law. Three, in order of importance, I believe, to receive complete information about diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis from the physician. Number four, to receive information necessary for you to give informed consent prior to any procedure or treatment, including a description of the procedure or treatment, any potential risks or benefits of the probable duration of any capacitation, and any alternatives. And then five, to refuse to participate in research, to refuse treatment to the extent permitted by law, and to be informed of the medical consequences of these actions. Now, there are more in this paragraph, but I wanted to highlight those in bold. Now, considering the past 3 years, do you feel like all of your patients' bill of rights have been respected? I certainly don't. No medical emergency should ever supersede the patient bill of rights. Yet the world governments implemented medical mandates as terms of employment, travel, entertainment, dining, and medical care. I personally was subjected to discrimination in the medical field because I was refused to be seen by several doctors because I refused to disclose my medical status to them. And they required that in order to enter their facility. So I've experienced the discrimination firsthand. Now let's go into what is ICD-10. ICD codes were created in England with the Registration Act in 1937, with provisions to gather more information about deceased populations and various causes of death. It started with ICD-1 in 1909, and the United Nations delegated this responsibility to the WHO beginning in 1946. The WHO adopted ICD-10 in 1990, which now includes significantly more codes and categories to include over 155,000 codes. Okay, great. These are medical diagnosis codes. However, what sets off alarm bells are the codes that were introduced in 2021. At a meeting held on September 14th and 15th, 2021, New ICD codes were introduced concerning medication status. Let's just put it that way to be YouTube friendly. This is a screenshot of what is included that was included at that meeting, September 14 and 15, 2021. I would like you to focus on these tabular modifications. They were proposed to go into effect April 1st, 2022. These categories or codes fall under Z28. One is the under-medicated status, the unmedicated status, the partially medicated status, and other under-medicated status. These codes, although they were not fully implemented in April 2022, they were universally adopted by most medical clinics and hospitals by January of this year. Now, surface medical explanation might say it's supposed to address the initial intended use, which was to track mass deaths and reasons for them. And as you know, if you've been following any recent publications and peer-reviewed data, you would know that without a doubt, excess deaths are occurring across the world today. But are these codes being used to research excess deaths? No. What are the real reasons for these ICD-10 codes? Well, they say it is part of a biosecurity agenda. And how can we affirm that? Well, let's look at what Dr. Malone says. The code number Z28310 is not a code for an illness or a diagnosis, which is what these 155,000 codes are typically used for, but rather for non-compliance of a medical procedure. Once a person's medication status is coded and uploaded into a large database, it can be accessed by government and private health insurers alike. The administrative state officers at the CDC have not made medication status a reportable disease yet, but medication status is listed as one of the reasons for mandatory reporting. So maybe the government will not officially restrict your travel, but airlines, other nations, auto rental companies, public transport, and private companies may. Just like private doctors' offices were allowed to deny your treatment because of your medication status. In addition to that, code number Z28.3 wants you to reveal why you didn't receive medication or stopped booster medication treatments. I've included those paragraphs here. Some of those under medication status they want to know is why? Is it because of contraindication? Was it your decision for other specified reasons? Was it your belief or group pressure, or was it for other reasons? Z28.39 also goes into other under-medicated status. They want to know why, not only regarding the current medication, they want to know if you are under-medicated in the following categories, such as recommendations for ages 19 or older per the CDC. And I've included a list of 10 or more medications that the CDC requires or recommends for adults aged 19 or over. Now, some of these are annual medications. Others are every several years, 2 to 3 doses, depending on conditions and depending on indications. So they want to know why you aren't compliant with even these medications. And then if you aren't, they want to counsel you on medication safety. And I would like you to note that this is a billable reason for an encounter. The code Z71.85 states, use this code when reporting counseling provided to patients and caregivers who are medicine hesitant, wish to follow alternative medicine schedule, or otherwise require time spent in counseling at lengths beyond that typical of routine immunization counseling. So they're talking about re-educating you on and trying to find out why you will not follow their protocols. Documentation of time spent in preventative medicine counseling and separate time spent in medication administration counseling should be explicit in the encounter note to support that preventative medicine counseling was significant and separately identifiable. I will refer back to the Patient Bill of Rights, as this counseling is more coercion and violates several of your aforementioned Patient Bill of Rights. Now, Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Joseph Mercola claim that ICD-10 medical-related codes are a gross violation of medical privacy rights. But are they? They cite or they refer to the Privacy Act of 1974. So I looked into the Privacy Act of 1974, and it prohibits the disclosure of a record about an individual from a system of records absent the written consent of the individual, unless the disclosure is pursuant to one of 12 statutory exceptions. This disclosure can be by any means of communication, written, oral, electronic, or mechanical. Now, they do include 12 statutory exceptions. So basically, the Act prohibits the disclosure of a record about an individual. However, they have 12 exceptions to this rule or act. And they are listed here in my Substack. And I'd like to bring your attention to items number 7 and 8, which are, in my opinion, the most alarming. Law enforcement request. It allows agencies to disclose records to federal law enforcement agencies upon receipt of a written request to disclose a record to another agency or unit of the state or local government for a civil or criminal law enforcement activity. So if they make these medicine mandates a law, then it's a law enforcement request if a person from the agency submits a written request. And then number 8 is regarding the health or safety of an individual, emphasizing emergency nature of exception to be used where consent cannot be obtained because of time and distance and instant action is required. Noting that this subsection was intended to apply only to such valid life and death situations as an airplane crash or epidemic. Now, there are things called contingent circumstances or exigent circumstances where law enforcement needs to obtain certain medical information because of a hazardous event or triage that needs to happen in a case of emergency. But I would like to highlight epidemic. Now, time and distance and instant action is required, I would highlight. But given that they've stretched this emergency use authorization for as long as they have, it's still even in effect right now, that who's to say they won't declare an epidemic and they need that information for the health and safety of you. So although the doctors claim that your Privacy Act of 1974 rights may be grossly violated by ICD-10 and its respective codes, I would say that they can use any one of these 12 statutory exceptions to get the information that they want. If they want your information bad enough, they will find a way to get it. Okay, but what about HIPAA? Doesn't that protect me? Doesn't that protect my medical privacy? Not necessarily. HIPAA is more about the individual's rights to see and receive copies upon request of the information in their medical and other health records maintained by their healthcare providers and health plans. And there are also 2 exceptions to this privacy rule. I'd like to highlight the second one, which is information compiled in reasonable anticipation of or for use in a civil, criminal, or administrative action or proceeding. So, again, if administrative actions, civil or criminal, are pending against you for violating whatever they want to make up, HIPAA does not apply. So that's a lot to swallow. In addition, we can see these codes are already in action. In early February, it was revealed that New York City teachers who did not get the jab were flagged with a problem code in their personnel file, triggering their fingerprints to be sent to the FBI and New York Criminal Justice Services. Fingerprints were illegally entered into not just one, but 2 criminal databases. And who knows what they're going to do with that and how these teachers are going to be discriminated against in the future. They're collecting your information wherever, however, and whenever they can. This is just the beginning. As I referred to in a previous Substack post, the World Economic Forum and world leaders attending these COP27 and Davos summits are pushing for digital passports linked to health status, as well as digital currencies and carbon footprint scores. They are looking to track you in every single way possible. They're looking to discriminate against you. They're looking to restrict your freedoms in any way that they can think of. But how can my fellow warriors protect themselves from medical tyranny that is about to and has already befallen us? Well, the first way I would suggest you protect your information is to read any and all medical documents and forms carefully before signing. Refuse to disclose your medication status to any medical provider. Leave the question blank. Find independent doctors that do not accept insurance, as ICD codes are required anytime insurance is used. Do not apply for or use TSA PreCheck, Global Entry, Nexus, or Clear, as they conduct background checks, in-person interviews, collect fingerprints, iris scans, and other biometric data. They can shut down or deny your clearance at any time. Contact your congressional representative and ask him or her to reject all attempts by the administrative state, the UN, the WHO, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Biden administration to require a medical passport or digital ID. Know your patient bill of rights, and if you forget them, request them. Bring awareness to any medical provider who may attempt to violate your rights. Do not comply with any medical procedure you are uncomfortable with or you believe infringes on your patient rights. You must be aware of what's going on, and I take it upon myself to do my best to inform you of what's going on behind your back, because the mainstream media is not covering this, and they don't want to cover this. They want to sneak in any paperwork that they can ways to collect information about you voluntarily. They want you to give this up freely and willingly. Just like so many people freely and willingly received a medication they knew nothing about, or that they were coerced into or forced into because they were trying to make a living. They were trying to travel. They were trying to see family. They were trying to visit their friends. They were trying to live a normal life. And so many people were coerced and tricked into something that they really did not have informed consent about. And now we see those ramifications. If we let them continue to creep on our freedom, we give this information voluntarily, then what is our recourse? What is our way to fight back if we gave them everything without a fight? So, my fellow warriors, I urge you to stay informed, stay vigilant, and always take steps ever forward. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, don't give up your freedom.